Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a backdrop. A backdrop is just a scenery object that's visible in more than one location. Imagine you're in the desert. A desert is 10 rooms in your game, but no matter where you are in the desert, you want to be able to see the sun. You're in a forest, you always want to be able to see trees. You're in ancient Pompeii, you always want to be able to see Mount Vesuvius. That's what we're talking about here. A scenery object that's visible in more than one place. That's called a backdrop. So let's look at a project that I've got here. This is it's a forest, and they all the rooms are named forest, and that's okay because when they get imported into Trizbort, they'll all be assigned unique ID numbers. And I've added three objects here: trees, sun, and clouds. So let's import this map and see what happens. File, import Trizbort map, yes. And let's go bring this guy in, and let's run. Pardon me, I'm running in my debugger. Okay, import complete. And now let's save it as backdrop example. All right. And you can see it brought in the project name and my project description and the author. So that's cool. So let's go look at our rooms. You'll see that we have forest 2, forest 3, forest 4, forest 5, forest 6, right? So all of these have unique ID numbers. Notice trees, sun, and clouds didn't have a number tacked onto the end like forest. We have forest 8, 9, 10, right? Because these names weren't duplicates, right? So in our game, we have to refer to this forest as forest 2, right? And if we go down here, this forest is actually forest 6, right? So objects can have the same printed name, like the same name that the player sees. However, internally, everything has a unique ID number. Oops. Go back there. Okay. I just broke the ID number. Okay. All right. We're good. Now, let's go to our objects here. Notice I have trees. Let's make them scenery. And let's give them a description. The tall trees. I don't know. They are tall oak, ancient oaks or something like that, right? I don't know. I don't know what kind of game we're trying to write here. And we don't give them an initial description because scenery objects don't have initial descriptions. And we don't. That's it. That's all we have to do for the trees. And then let's go to the and let's also give that a synonym. We'll call it oak or oaks. So now the player could type look at oaks or look at oak, and that would still work, right? They're just synonyms for that object. And then how about the sun? Or let's say the sun is dimly visible through the clouds. There you go. And then let's make the sun a scenery object also. Otherwise, the game will say, you see a sun here, right? And then clouds. We mentioned clouds in the sun description, so now we probably want to add a scenery object for that. And stop looking at scenery. There you go. And then the clouds are scenery too. So there we go. We've got trees, sun, and clouds. We have 3 scenery objects in our game. All right. So now the problem is, right now they're all in Forest 5, and the player could be in any one of these rooms, rooms 2 through rooms 10. So how do we handle that? Well, let's make an event, and we'll call it scenery or something like that. And then what we can do is we can check to see what room the player's in, and if the player is in one of those forest rooms, we can move those scenery objects into the player's room. And I'll show you 2 ways to do this. We can say if the player's holder is forest 2, or the double pipe means or player dot holder, the player's location is forest 3, and I could do this for each one of the 10 rooms, right? Forest 3, and I'd have to keep doing it. Then do this stuff, the stuff between the curly braces. Okay, so then what do we want to do? Sun.holder equals player.holder. Put the sun where the player is. Trees.holder equals player.holder. Take the player's holder, right, and assign it to the trees holder, right? Assign the thing on the right to the thing on the left. And what else? We have the sun, the trees, and the clouds. Put the clouds where the player is too. There we go. Okay, semicolon. Semicolon's on the line. Now, I could add a giant, whole bunch of or statements here. If the player's room is this, or the player's room is that, or the player's room is that. Okay, so that would be a little bit tedious. The better way to do it is, since all of these rooms happen to be next to each other, they're all kind of in a row here. I can say if the player's ID, player's holder is greater than 1, and it's less than 11, right? That would work too, right? So then I must be in one of those rooms. So let's say if the player's holder is greater than 1, now we want to say and. That's the ampersand sign, double ampersand. And the player's holder is less than, what was 11? Something like that. Less than 11, yes. Less than, but not including 11. Then put the sun where the player is. So let's save this and test it out. So I'm in my forest. Look, there's a forest here. So can I examine the trees? They are ancient oaks, right? And then somebody's always going to try to look at the sun, examine the sun. The sun is dimly visible through the clouds. Okay, examine the clouds. Okay, stop looking at scenery. All right, so so there we go. No matter where I go in the forest. Oh, somehow that room became forest 6. All right, that's okay. We'll go fix it. So there you go. No matter where I am in the forest, I can now see the sun and the clouds and those scenery objects. They're now following. They're basically following the player around. Is what they're doing. So so there we go. So if you have any problems on how to get that to work, just ask. Just as before I wrap up, just it's always good to add scenery objects to provide for things that would logically be present in the environment. If you're in the desert, the player's going to try to look at sand, right? So if you're on the beach, the player's going to look at the sand and the waves and all that stuff. So add scenery objects for those. It makes the game feel much more real. It helps maintain that immersion in the game. So there you go. That's how to do backdrops. But if you have any questions on how to get that to work, just ask.